Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back, or welcome to Just Call Me Viv. I'm Viv, and I'm a content creator in midlife. So today's episode, and I realized that we've missed each other for about a week. I haven't recorded, and today's topic is really about um, women in their mid 40s, 50s who have never been married and we're still thriving and we're redefining love in midlife. And this idea really came from I had dinner with three of my oldest girlfriends that I've known for a long time. And all of us are Latinas. All of us are either in our late 40s or just started this beautiful uh, next journey into our 50s. And all of us are single mothers and we have never been married. And it got me thinking about what it means to be an unmarried woman and still thrive. And how do we redefine this chapter in our lives? It certainly doesn't mean that none of us have a desire to get married. I think I always envisioned myself getting married. It just hasn't happened. And for a while, too, it was a choice to um, remain single and celibate and unmarried. But what does it look like to redefine our lives and not live by these expectations? And it's really powerful because as women, especially women in our age, who have never been married, not divorced, not widowed, just never been married, this topic carries a lot of weight. Um, it really carries a lot of weight, doesn't it? Because in a world that still measures our value by milestones, did you get that ring, or anniversaries, or the forevers, or the relationships, being unmarried in midlife can feel like an unfinished sentence or an unfinished chapter. And I want us to think about maybe it isn't unfinished after all. Maybe it's just a telling of a different type of story, one that deserves to be told out loud. These stories, we have wedding magazines. Why not embrace? I'm thinking we need to publish a website instead of like The Knot that celebrates an unmarried person, an unmarried woman really thriving. And again, I'm not talking about singlehood, which you could be unmarried and single, or unmarried and coupled up with someone. I'm just talking about the construct and the idea of marriage as an institution. So, again, I was thinking about it last week when I was having um, this like late lunch, early dinner with my friends. And I love data. And of course, I had to look out and look up the numbers. So let's start with what the numbers are whispering to me, sort of the quiet shift. And we've seen some significant shifts over the last 40, 50 years, perhaps. So in 1980, only about 6% of 40-year-olds in the US had never been married. That's only 6%. Fast forward to 2021, a year into the pandemic, and that number has grown to 25%, which is a record high. That means 1 in 4 40-year-olds have never been married. A generation ago, that would have sounded shocking and really out of the norm. But now it's a new normal. And it's not just 40-year-olds. Data from 2023 showed that roughly 22% of women between 35 and 44 have never been married. So that's just 2 years ago. That showed that 22% of women between 35 and 44 have never been married. And among women ages 40 to 44, about 1/3 were single, not married, not cohabitating. and more than half of them had never been married at all. So that's just not a blip on the radar. That's a transformation. That's a big cultural shift. We are the first generation where being single in midlife isn't rare, and it's part of our social fabric. And it makes me wonder, if this many women are walking this path, maybe it's time we start talking about it differently. Statistics can tell us what's happening, but not why, right? So we can look at the numbers and it can give us sort of an indication of what's going on. But to really understand that, we need to get sort of granular and try to figure this out a little bit more. So this is my deep dive. Some women, I would say, delayed marriage because of education. And that was certainly the case for me. I was really focused on going, to grad school and law school and really having a solid foundation in my career and being independent and being able to provide for myself so that I could provide for a family and any future children, right? So many women delay marriage because of this, and others spend their younger years maybe as caregivers for family, children, or parents. And it's not uncommon in Latino culture where the eldest sort of has more of a parent role and engages in a lot of caregiving for younger siblings. And because of that experience, because of that early experience, they often postpone getting married or having children of their own. And maybe for some, it's that they loved deeply but they didn't find the right fit. And others simply chose peace over partnership. Um, so there's no single reason, I would say. There's only the truth in each person's life, in each woman's life. And since 1970, the number of midlife adults who've never married has tripled. So that's pretty huge. Again, I'm noting a cultural shift. It's tripled, and that tells me something bigger is at play. We're not a generation that missed our chance. We're a generation that made different choices. So go Gen X. We're making different choices. Maybe we grew up watching marriages that didn't work. That certainly was the case for my parents. Maybe we learned that love isn't always enough. It isn't enough in staying in unhealthy environments, right? Or toxic relationships. Or maybe, just maybe, we realize that partnership doesn't have to look the way we were taught it should. That partnership doesn't have to be marriage. We can think about partnership in a myriad of ways, in many beautiful ways. And being single in your 40s or 50s is really layered. It can be freeing. And I'm going to tell you, it can feel really lonely. Um, I value my independence. I value the beautiful life that I've created, but I'm also lonely. And I'm looking for that partner to love me. Not to meet a need, but I want the company. Yeah, so I think, again, it's complicated, it's layered, and it it can feel spacious and sometimes a little untethered. And that's the quiet pride of being independent, the way you've built a life on your own terms. And then there are nights when you wonder what it might have been like to be loved longer or steadier. But here's like what I know from my experience: you're not behind and you're not missing out on the real thing, and you're already in the real thing, your life. You probably carried heartbreak and healing, and you've probably built resilience. You've had to, out of the days when no one was watching. And if you're a man or a woman listening right now, that means that you're still open. Maybe not waiting, but open. Um, and that's what I find beautiful about midlife, or middle life is what I call it, because I think midlife is 40. I'm past that. But I'm still in the middle. I'm still in the sandwich. Um, I think it's a beautiful phase and stage to be at, because the openness of this next step in our journey through living is gentler. It's less desperate. It's more deliberate. And we've learned to want companionship without losing ourselves. Um, and of course, not everyone's story is going to look the same. And this is where I want to, again, highlight the data. Black women, for example, have the highest rates of never marrying, and that's tied to longstanding social and economic factors that go beyond personal choice. Asian women tend to marry at higher rates, while Hispanic women often marry younger. And I'll get into the next podcast episode about being Hamona. It's one of the first posts that I wrote on my blog. So I'll follow up with that podcast about Hamona, being a Hamona. But essentially, Hispanic women often marry younger, but across every age group, something universal is happening. The script is really changing. Marriage isn't disappearing as an institution, but it's being redefined, and women are leading the redefinition. We're rewriting what love, partnership, and purpose look like, and sometimes it looks like a woman living fully on her own and staying unmarried. And I want to leave you with some questions, just gentle ones meant for you to think about and to linger, for you to marinate. If you've never been married, what has that opened for you? What has it closed? And which of those feels more like freedom? What stories about marriage have you carried that don't fit anymore? And what might it look like to create your own definition of forever? Because being single in midlife doesn't mean you've missed your moment. Sometimes it means you're just starting to live on your own terms. I think about all the women that I know, my friends, colleagues, sisters, mothers, who've built incredible, layered, meaningful lives without ever marrying. And I think how the world still whispers that something is missing. But what if nothing is missing? What if the peace, the self knowledge, the space is the something that we're meant to find? So here's my wish for you, that you stop apologizing for your path, that you hold your own hand with tenderness, and that you remember love takes many forms. Some of them were rings, and I'm happy for you, sis, if you're happily married. I'd love to hear your story. And some of them were freedom, and some of them are happily coupled up with someone. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find the links to the studies and the articles I mentioned in the show notes, along with journaling prompts to help you reflect on your own journey. And if this episode resonated for you, please like,